Hello everybody and welcome to Stella Reads. If you're new here, click the subscribe button and the notification bell. Today, Stella will be reading the first chapter of Hidden Figures. Let's get started.
Hi, I'm Stella, and let's get started reading Chapter 1 of Hidden Figures. Chapter 1, Setting the Scene. Dorothy Vaughan, Mary Jackson, Katherine Johnson, and Christine Darden loved math. As children, they showed special skill in arithmetic, and they went arithmetic, and they went on to study mathematics in college. After graduation, they worked as teachers before going to work as computers or mathematicians for the government's air and space program. Over the years, hundreds of women worked as mathematicians for the federal agency called the NACA, the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics, which researched and promoted the study of flight. But these women were among many who distinguished themselves with their talents and hard work. Dorothy Vaughan was a pioneer. She joined the NACA in 1943. The first year, the agency began hiring African American women as computers. As she was the first to be promoted into a management position, she was a role model for other women, as she helped to steer the careers of many talented women who were joining the NACA. Mary Jackson was the first African American woman to move up the ranks and become an engineer at the NACA. She was a fighter, standing up for herself and for the other women who deserved a chance to prove themselves. Her work helped to make a supersonic aircraft fly higher and faster. Katherine Johnson was an African American woman who became an essential member of the team that put the first American in orbit around Earth. She was a dreamer and an independent thinker. She was afraid to imagine what others considered to be impossible. She helped do the math that was required to send the first man into space and to bring them back home safely. Kristen Darden was an African American woman who became one of the world's leading experts on supersonic flight. She became the face of the next generation of female space scientists. Her groundbreaking research on predicting sonic booms is still used today. The accomplishments of these four women were remarkable, but their work was even more impressive because it was achieved while living and working in the South during a time when racial discrimination was commonplace, and when most women with an interest in math were expected to become math teachers. A different time. In the 1800s, after the World War, the government passed laws that ended slavery and granted full citizenship and voting rights to African Americans. Later, however, many state and local governments passed their laws that legalized racial segregation. These regulations, which were most common in the South, kept black people and white people apart in many situations. They couldn't eat in the same restaurants. They could not drink from the same water fountains. They couldn't they couldn't use the same restrooms. They couldn't attend the same schools. They couldn't ride the same parts of buses. They couldn't live in the same neighborhoods. They couldn't receive care in the same hospitals. They couldn't visit the same beaches. They couldn't compete in the same sports teams. They could not sit in the same section of movie theaters. They would not marry someone of a different race. They could not even be buried in the same cemeteries. Technically, African Americans had the right to vote. However, many local laws made it impossible for them to do so. Some communities levied or charged poll taxes or enforced literacy requirements or imposed their restrictions that made it difficult or impossible for Black people to register and vote. Weren't allowed to serve in juries or run the political office. Many African Americans were deprived of these civil rights as well. During the 1930s, the United States experienced the Great Depression, a decade-long period of economic struggle. Jobs became difficult to find and wages decreased dramatically. All Americans suffered, but African Americans faced the most serious challenges in finding work. For many African Americans, World War II was an opportunity to make a better life for themselves and their families. Black men enlisted in the military in large numbers, even though they served in separate Black infantry regiments, overseen by white officers. They believed that their loyalty and patriotism would help Blacks to earn rights that white citizens had. Women also enlisted in the army, where they were called WACs, the Women's Army Corps. 4 Women's Army Corps, and they served in all-female units in the Navy too. And for women like Dorothy Vaughan, Mary Jackson, Katherine Johnson, and Kristen Darden, World War II opened the door to a career as a professional mathematician. Each of them found their way to the Langley Laboratory, where they met on one another, and women like them, smart, brave, confident, and good at math. The world was changing the world, and it would change their lives as well. I hope you enjoyed this video, and see other videos of my channel to know more about the books I have. And yeah,